Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of Expert Consultant. This time, a sequel episode of our very own Corey Capron of Capron's Cabin is back with me again to talk about movies and video games.
Oh my! This is quite a setup here. I'm broadcasting from the cabin, but it looks like I'm in Tron. What do you got going on here?
A lot of
This is special.
blues, a lot of neon. We love the blues here. That's all.
Okay, so it's not the hillbilly unicorn juice I've been drinking. It's this is
No,
this is normal. Okay,
that might be something
okay.
else.
I mean, I probably shouldn't have mixed it with the pickled okra, but you got to roll like you do.
It's the
But
only way to get by.
yeah, staying sane in this mad world. Hi, no, thank you for having me on. And yes, this is a crossover part two. Part one, we covered kind of the early years of video games tying in and adapting movies, and I think we kind of reached the shore of when I started to gradually check out from games around the PS2 or the PS3, which is kind of when you dived in. So
Yeah,
so
perfect
so
timing.
tell me what happened.
So, what movie games are what I grew up on, basically. So when you're a kid
Yes.
and you're like 5 or 6 and you're new to video games, your parents only know to buy you one thing, that either the Chronicles of Narnia video game, because that's a movie that's out, or oh goodness, the SpongeBob movie game, or in addition to other SpongeBob games, a Finding Nemo movie game. This is all I grew up with, and of course, my dad was the one who bought me the more mature titles, and I played the likes of your Grand Theft Autos and your
Yeah.
your Perfect Darks and so forth. So that's how I got into that. But on my mom's side, I always played these movie games, and so growing up on that, they're interesting, right? That's like it's a crazy world to grow up in because movie games, as we talked about in your episode, Corey, it's like how they adapted those stories was they would take, they might take a singular scene and just blow it out for the course of the game. It's kind of harder to adapt that a full film story in a 2D space, but now in a 3D space, it's like kind of how do you adapt these live action movies of real characters or 3D animations into a 3D video game.
Right, going from kilobytes even and megabytes to you know games that are now several gigabytes of storage capacity.
Yeah.
Uh, Before, yeah, you couldn't even hold the text. You couldn't put the script on like a television game. It would be too much data.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, originally you had to kind of look at the mechanics of a moment and highlight that, or just the core concept. And now, I guess, really it kind of got flipped in that games these days, we had like JRPGs which go really long, but now like the standard for a game is like tens of hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I mean, some games like it's like, oh, it's a short game, it's only 20 hours to beat, and I'm like, 20 hours.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's That's a big problem I've always had with more recent games is just how long and kind of I feel like a lot of developers feel they need to make a game that's 20 to 30 hours or a lot of people just won't consider it worth buying.
So for a lot of like basic movies, that's a lot of inflation of the
Yeah.
narrative, or like you can't. There's a Nintendo example of this, which was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is pretty faithful to the movie, except it needs padding. So there's these side quests you go on where it's like, yeah, remember the part where Kevin Costner like has a boar over his shoulder, he froze down to the people. Well, now there's going to be a whole mission where you fight a boar that takes up a fifth of the screen,
That sounds
and
pretty cool, actually.
yeah, that game's weird. I love that. Like that game should be bad. Like the isometric design of it clips off. So like the diagonal of a tower that's supposed to be up in the air, like up above, will stop you in the screen in the overtop game. So you're looking down on the player, and yet it's a fake isometric, and because you can't go under things, things that are up in the air stop you.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, like, one thing, some of the games you mentioned, and I realized we never talked about Disney games in mine or yours, but I feel like that's a whole episode into itself, because I think
There's
the
a lot
one
there.
golden exception is Disney games. They've always been really good at adapting their material to whatever medium was available. But the other games you were listing, it never occurred to me until hearing them again. And I think before we talked about Lord of the Rings before setting up, but so the games you were running into were Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Narnia.
Yeah.
So I imagine for a while there was actually kind of a sweet spot where you had these really long adventure movies that you then had to adapt to a game. And padding probably occurred, but they kind of fit the format. I mean, you tell me, I haven't played them.
So, in terms of like length, a lot of them did a good job, I'd say, in terms of like putting a 2 to 3 hour movie into a 6 to 7 hour game experience, because you can certainly, like, a lot of them took a part in the movie that lasts about 15, 30, probably about 15 minutes tops, and that whole scene can last an hour to an hour and a half in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And oh gosh, I wish I have not played Lord of the Rings or the Chronicles of Narnia game in a long, long time, but I guess Lord of the Rings being the more memorable of the two, is that I remember in Return of the King there would be like, the Two Towers. What's the city that they defend in Two Towers? Help me.
In Two Towers?
Yeah.
Helm's Deep. Of Ronan.
That might be a case of the movie being the same length as the game, at least extended part.
Oh yeah, no, that was such a big deal when the movie came out, because they were like, it's going to be a 45-minute battle sequence, and we were like, 45 minutes?
Yeah. It's like, how do you do that, And like, honestly, the game, of course, lasts about an hour and a half doing that, and just adapting that, I think, and help, that was so cool about Lord of the Rings at the time, and this obviously applies to Harry Potter in the same conversation, is that in Lord of the Rings, the video game, the Two Towers, you got to like kind of explore Helm's Deep, because one of my favorite things about Lord of the Rings is its architecture, is its world design, and then before that there was never really a game that you truly got to just like sit down and explore these like iconic locations. Maybe Lord of the Rings Online, but I never played it.
Oh, you mean like a game referencing another movie, not just like a depth of exploration in gaming.
Oh yeah. Just kind of like explore the location in the like world itself, which is honestly my favorite.
And
thing.
It being referential and like lore heavy, and it's like, oh no, now you can go in this person's quarters. Okay, because I was gonna be like, Sweet Summer Child, Ultima 7. The Serpent Isle.
Yeah.
Let me make bread.
No, you got Ultima episodes to do. I'd be more than willing to do them. But
oh hell yeah.
Oh yeah. But like that's my favorite thing about games in 3D spaces, is that it's more like you can explore a physical space, and such as the Harry Potter games that actually recreated Hogwarts as they were based on in the movies. So you get that flyover shot in Order of the Phoenix, and you would just get a flyover. You just see how it is. It sets the setting. But in the game, you would actually be able to explore that area. There's a shot in one of the Harry Potter movies, I think Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm probably totally wrong. But like where the shot goes through the clock tower from starting from the bottom and goes to the top, and just you never really see that scene again. You never see that place again. But in the game, you get to actively explore that area, just to walk around and check it out while there are a bunch of students going around. And sure, the game might not be the most like mechanically depth or tell the story the best way it possibly could, but to me it succeeds at what we all kind of wanted to do at the time, is just like explore Hogwarts, explore this iconic location in entertainment. So that's always like
Nice.
yeah, being able to do that is something that like that's to me the why video games are so great, is that they give you that kind of like power that older video games could not do. Not to bash on the older games. I love my older games.
No, but like one of the big appeals for me in getting back into gaming, because I was already starting to kind of be on my way out with like the PlayStation 2 I got in high school, and I like going into college, and that was the last system I bought, and everything else has just been like playing with like Gabriel or online streaming it, steaming it. But and a lot of, I don't know, I'm one of those people that you can that enjoys watching someone else play and like helping them figure out puzzles and stuff. But like I think that's kind of a weird thing that's happened, where spectators of video games have become almost an entire extra market. It certainly is for that's the reason we have not Steam, but
Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch and stuff. Like there's people make their whole career out of just playing games, because there's weirdos like me that just sometimes just want to like sit back at the end of the day and watch a game like a movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And games are an expensive hobby now too.
Oh, there's that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the PS3, they're like, yeah, for the low cost of like $600, and I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I got rent. Sorry, not this chapter of my life, but no, yeah, it still it feels like, for me, is kind of an outsider to most contemporary games. The problem is games. Like I said on my episode, one of the major things is that you have a static medium that beyond the certain basic interactivity with, like a book, you can skip ahead, you can close the book whenever you want. A movie, you can fast forward or skip scenes. But like, other than those very basic levels of just interactivity with the physical medium, the narrative is dictated. Where with a game, you actually do interact with it, and you change, and you have branches, and you encounter things like ludonarrative dissonance, where the mechanics tell you to do one thing, but you want to go raise hell in Grand Theft Auto, or you're supposed to be the good guy, but Lara Croft, the old Tomb Raider games, that was always kind of a funny thing, where it's like, you're the good guy, but you just killed like 30 endangered species. With a Uzi.
Yeah. In short.
It's like, oh my god, the first Tyrannosaurus Rex to ever be discovered alive. I'm gonna, it's the old D&D
shoot it
rules.
100 times.
If it's got a stat block, I'm gonna fight it. But yeah, no, I mean, like, games have taken on so much of the filmic quality. I imagine that there's just a lot of like these two things, certainly on as a way of telling a narrative, as an adaptation, it doesn't really make any more sense, except in the appeal that you explained with being able to explore places. Like, where in the timeline, because I don't have any of this in front of me,
Sure.
are like the Harry Potter games with like demon souls? Because I know that
So if you're thinking like Demon Souls is 2009.
Okay,
Fact
so
check.
yeah, but like they're kind of coming out. Okay, actually no, because if you're talking
Yeah,
about
oh
Lord of the
nine.
Rings,
Oh nine.
so the Lord of the Rings games would be wrapping up. Harry Potter games would be coming close to an end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
About
it's
that.
really not until I think Dark Souls 2 that we start seeing, sort of in the same way we had Metrovania games, these sort of, what's the term for them now? The games
Metroid.
that use the model of Dark Souls.
Oh, Souls like. Or were you thinking roguelike? I think. Or
Well, I mean, Rogue's the classic way, but I mean,
yeah, yeah.
more, yeah, like super hard games with passive but incredibly deep lore.
Yeah, I think a few like Dark Souls is an interesting example because Dark Souls has had there are certainly Dark Souls clones, right? But I think
Hmm.
many more games since then have decided to take like parts of Dark Souls or either use the
Sure.
Estus in an interesting way or use kind
Hmm.
of bonfire like checkpoints are in an interesting way or use that level design, how the environmental storytelling,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
like you can see, as much as it's a Metroidvania, you can see elements of the passive lore in something like Hollow Knight.
Of course, yeah, which is
Um,
very much a Souls like,
yeah, Souls like. So like in some ways, I see not necessarily the difficulty model, but the passive lore model of some of those games being kind of the extension of what you're talking about, where it's like, oh, I can go explore this room that the camera panned past. I can break into Snape's room and read his journal and figure out a bunch of stuff if I can figure out a way around this and this and this.
Yeah,
That
something.
certainly as a moviegoer, that certainly is an appealing concept to me to play a game. There was a while back when they were trying to figure out like what the next technological thing in movies was going to be. A few people kind of posited that we might see like holographic movies where everything is recorded from every angle, and then you can just be a ghost in the room witnessing a scene. And that loses a lot of the filmic language, never to talk off, besides the fact it'd be a stupid expensive thing to do. But in some ways, I think games kind of picked that up
And then it's just yeah, in
because,
a way, yeah.
I mean, I hate to bring it up, but it's sort of what Ready Player One does with The Shining. Like you
It
can
had to come up,
explore.
Corey. It had to
It
come
had
up.
to. We were talking about it before we started recording. It was just like, gonna, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, so this is all speculative stuff. Tell me more about like the games that came out
Oh,
because I
sure,
know
sure, sure. Yeah,
like
there's a lot. There's,
yeah.
um, especially. I mean, movie games, movie tie-in games were always, always out to just make money. They were never. They were rarely about the creative aspect and more just kind of how do we make money off this property. I think, of course, there are your exceptions. I think as like the Harry Potter games are not great, but they do something really cool and unique. The Lord of the
Mm-hmm.
Rings games are considered a classic, So by all for intents and purposes, there's a lot of like,
Just
go
don't
on.
get me started on Shadow of Mordor.
Oh yeah, 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 no, yeah. That's gone off the rails.
Okay,
um,
we'll keep on the rails.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But so like, there's a lot of interesting games there, and we all know about all the bad movie games we played as a kid. But I kind of want to touch on where we lost that, where movie games kind of started dying. They weren't dead yet, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they were dying, and they either had to be good, or
Mm-hmm.
they just like had to be different than the movies that they were based upon,
Yeah.
which killed them. And so I'm going to say this is again me talking purely from my experience in my head and the world around me. This is not fact. This is just what I've seen like throughout my experience in the video game industry and
Mr.
knowledge.
Dickerson, your
Yes.
opinions are not fact.
Oh gosh, we're doing the That's the
Oh,
mission
we're gonna get to
statement.
Enter the Matrix. It's inevitability.
So, I think around 2000, I think, oh gosh, this is starting a little early, but I want to say 2005 is where this kind of like, or 2006 is where this started, right? 2005, you have Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game. You have the Warriors video game, and you have the 24 video game. So these are just three examples, but they're like, now the 24 game, I've never played it, but I know it's not necessarily heralded as anything good, but it's definitely an idea, right? I think they took 24 and they were trying to do something with it that was unique. And the King Kong game is a very cool game. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Corey, but it's very interesting.
No, but like as you were saying that, and I realized, well, of course they made a game to the Peter Jackson King Kong, and then I was just thinking, like, how do you screw that up? Like, if there was ever a movie that should be a video game, it should be like that whole movie is just nothing but a video game, except
basically.
for like an hour of forlorn looks on a boat.
It's really good. Like, has a ton of interesting set pieces and stuff, and like the fact of like, so yeah, of course, like King Kong was a good video game movie, and then you have the Warriors video game, which I've heard is pretty good and just interesting, making a movie about or a video game about the Warriors after so long of that movie coming out.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I would almost want it to be a retro game, like a sprite game, though, because Warriors is basically like Renegade, River City Ransom, Double Dragon, the movie. Like, yes, it's not two people, but a whole gang, but like they fight different style gangs, and each one seems like a video game interpretation of a gang. Like, there's like the New York's Met, like, or Yankees gang, and there's like the Orphans who are all in like I think there's a mime gang in that movie. It's been a hot minute, but like it's so weird. Like Walter Hill made like 3 or 4 movies that are just like the essence of everything, like video game, like Streets of Rage you could want.
The game game is a brawler. It does take a more modern aspect of that, but it is a like kind of a Streets of Rage brawler in a way.
Beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it does that, and I would say now we're jumping a little bit here, but 2009 is when I believe movie games started dying off, and they kind of, like I said, had to die or had to be good, right? Because it was like the 360 era. Games were getting more expensive to make. They had to look good, so we started seeing games like, like the G-Force. You remember G-Force, the hamster movie?
Man, why you gotta like remind me about that?
Yes, that game.
Why do you gotta
really
make me acknowledge that? Yes, of course I've seen the hamster movie G-Force. Also seen Bolt while you're at it.
It has to come out now, Corey.
Cats and Dogs 2.
Oh my gosh. So that game That game was a big success, like in terms of reviews and everything. It did really well, and the game, an interesting one, probably one of the most interesting video games ever to have made, is the Ghostbusters video game.
Now, are you talking about the Ghostbusters remake video game, or are you talking about the amazing one that's basically Ghostbusters 3?
That one, the third one, basically.
Yeah, that is
Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah, no, that is. They got the original cast back. Like, anyone out there who has been wanting a Ghostbusters 3, yes, I know you have 2 options available for a Ghostbusters 3, but neither of them are Ghostbusters 3. The game that Mr. DickRson is telling you about is Ghostbusters 3.
Yes, it's
Afterlife can be Ghostbusters 4. That's fine.
There you go.
But the Ghostbusters 3 you want is this game, and you're right. It is amazing.
It's really good, and that's around the time I was like getting really into Ghostbusters, and then just how they got the whole cast back. I believe Dan Aykroyd like did some of the script.
Yeah,
that
was a labor of love.
Yeah,
like that's not a cash in. Like,
100%.
Yes, it made money. Actually, I don't know that it made that much money. To be honest,
actually bombed.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, no, that's the true exception to your point about like these are just cash-ins. Like, that's kind of why I was like, there's cash-ins and there's adaptations.
Yeah.
And then there's things like this, which are kind of parallel narratives or follow-up, unofficial sequels. There's a Goonies 2 Nintendo game.
I did not know that. Really?
There's no Goonies 2 movie, but there's a Goonies 2 video game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird.
Okay. Well,
but, yeah.
So, yeah, you see interesting things like this. And the Ghostbusters game kind of like... movie games were transforming or trying to find a way to hold on. And I believe one of the last great movie games before it kind of died out into obscurity is the Toy Story 3 video game. Of all things,
okay.
Toy Story 3, the video game. It actually was the start of the Toys to Life Disney Infinity game. It was kind of like that branched off from that. So
nice.
Yeah, so the success came from that. And that was around the time we stopped seeing traditional movie games, and the rise of the mobile market was going crazy. It was starting to blow up. Many people started having iPods, iPhones, everything. The iOS App Store was just fresh and new. It would cost barely nothing to make an iOS app like video game. So, what better way? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was thinking. Yeah, it was the new Flash.
Yeah, it costs nothing, super easy to make. So why don't they just put all these like movies that like they want to make movie games? Well, the cheapest way to do it is just put it on an iPhone. So we started seeing hundreds upon hundreds of clones of like just random movie license games, like, and some would be. This is bad on me. I wish I had examples, but there would be like, I know there were like first-person shooters on the iPhone of like movie games that had nothing to do with it. Did you know that there is an iPhone game of a Resident Evil movie? And one of the Resident Evil CG movies, there's an iPhone game that is traditional Resident Evil, and it's never come out on anything else.
I think I was watching a thing on like the whole history of Resident Evil games to see, because I was like, how many of these are there?
Yeah.
Because even like growing, like I played Resident Evil 2 when it came out, and even like as somebody who grew up with Resident Evil, I was like, I've not caught up. There's Code Veronica's. Are there like sequels to Code Veronica? There's like, and somebody's punching a rock, and I don't know why.
Classic scene.
Like, where's my spin-off of Sweet Home? Come on. Like, what have you done to my beautiful baby boy? God, I'm dated. But no, yeah, no, that's interesting. Now, at the same time, though, because what about the Spider-Man games? Because that was also going on.
The Spider-Man games, like, after whatever.
Spider-Man 2 was phenomenal, but that's earlier.
Yeah, so 2009, Spider-Man 3 came out, the Sam Raimi film.
Yeah.
When did that was 09?
Maybe.
I'm so sorry. Oh no, that was 07. Okay, that was 07.
Okay.
So the Spider-Man games had honestly stopped being successful because around this time, 09 and 010, they made Spider-Man Edge of Time and Spider-Man Something of Fate, which weren't the open world Spider-Mans anymore, and the Spider-Man franchise in terms of video games kind of fell off around that time.
I mean, yeah, like the entire appeal of playing, like having played like the old Spider-Man games, like it's just not fun without the open world aspect. Like, I mean, yes, the Carnage game is awesome as a beat 'em up, but you're not getting what you actually want from a Spider-Man game until you got to open world.
Yeah, so like those went away, and everything became iOS, and they're just, like I said, buckets full of just weird movie iOS games that are gone now. They can't be played because of the App Store just updating throughout the years. But it's just unfortunately, there'll be a lot to dive down. There, of course, a lot of them are bad, but there's some interesting ones that are just weird for existing. There's a Godzilla 2014. There's a video game of that on the iPhone only.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. I've played it. It takes like 30 minutes, but it's a first-person shooter, and it has some interesting scenes with Godzilla in it. Just kind of like it takes that scene where they're skydiving and like basically makes a video game of that, a 30-minute video game. It, for what it is, it's cool, you know?
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, like, Godzilla is one of those things where I'm just kind of a whore for whatever. Like, yeah, no, give me the Godzilla pizza slicing simulator, and I'll like Godzilla's on the pizza, and I'll cut it into. I don't know even what I'm talking about, but I'm just saying, like,
I would take.
I'd play it.
Pizza.
I'd play it. It's
Yeah.
like you tell me you put Godzilla on a pizza, I'm there.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's such a fun little kind of throwback to what we were talking about on my episode of the foundational tie-in adaptations, where it's just like you take a scene and you make a game around that, and like Star Wars basically had 3 games to cover the first movie.
Oh yeah.
You have a lightsaber dueling training simulator. You have a X-wing flying simulator. You have a what is the other one? Oh well, there's the AT Walker
Oh, the
part
Hoth.
from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we covered that already.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting, right? Like a lot of weird games on the iOS store that have just been lost to time, and that's when jumping ahead a little bit. So once that kind of died out, right? Like mobile games just had become this cesspool of hatred. Everyone hates mobile games because they're mobile games, and I would make a defense of that. I will sometime in the future because I think there's a way to go there. I don't think they're all bad, but as mobile games have kind of died, not died, sorry, and mobile games like mobile movie games have died off now to where they barely make any of them. So now we start seeing adaptations of games of these games, but they don't even take a part of the movie. They either are a prequel or a sequel or a side story of a movie, where I think everything now, one of the most important things in the entertainment industry right now is ludonarrative dissonance. There might be a better way to describe it than I'm not thinking about right now, but I think the entire, everything that is made cares about continuity now in a way that I don't think was ever relevant in the past. So if something I kind of put this on the MCU for kind of helping create this, but just everything has to matter. Because of this continuity, everything has to matter. If you make a story, it has to fit into the larger world that you're telling. So you can see in the Alien Isolation video game, again, it's a quasi-sequel, with Ripley's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. Like an interesting thing that people wanted to touch on. I know we both hate it, Corey, but Middle Earth, Shadow of War is...
Yeah, like, just the whole... honestly, my thing with it, because I haven't played it, like, the mechanics of it actually, ironically, seem like a potentially really good game with the whole, people locking on to their targets, like I think there's, a grudge system or something in it.
Yeah, it's basically, it's called the Nemesis system, where if you hurt someone, they'll remember you,
Yes. So, as a pure mechanical game, I'm open to that being a great game. Where I'm salty is more just people, when the movies came out, people were so oh my god, they didn't include Tom Bombadil, and everybody it's oh, it's not that good. I'm like, this movie is a miracle. On a technical level, you will never see a movie like Lord of the Rings ever again, ever. I guarantee it. The Hobbit couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so for all the things that they left out, they got so much right. And so when I hear people now, acting like they're Christopher Tolkien, who's just so overprotective of it, then tell me that Shadow of Mordor, which just takes a giant crap on all lore, continuity, everything. We want
Yeah.
a slashy
I
good.
think even like the messages of the film and
Yeah,
books is what I'm trying to.
yeah, books and films. So yeah, my saltiness is more the hypocrisy that people that will tell you like the movie is bad because it's not pure to the novel, will then like that game. Like if you don't care that Tom Bombadil's in, or you agree that Tom Bombadil is a great storyline in the book that goes nowhere, so sure, cut it from the 4 hour, I'm sorry, 12 and a half hour movie, technically.
Yeah.
Then yeah, that's where my saltiness comes from. I don't have a hard take on the game as a game.
Yeah. So I totally get that. But in terms of service, what we're speaking about, it's a side story. It is like it tries to fit itself in the larger universe in a weird, and it unfortunately steps on the original story a lot by making
Mm-hmm.
Shelob a woman. Um,
The spider?
yes, she can transform into a woman now.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
No. Like Shelob
Mm-hmm.
is female.
Mm-hmm.
She's the queen of the spiders.
Yes, but she can
But
also
but
transform into a like a seductress female.
no. Look, if you want to adapt Little Mio and have sexy insect women, like you can rock on, but that's not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So I always felt like really offended because I think the first one insults it a little and the second just like
Yeah.
steps all over. But that's besides the point.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm going to turn into Colbert pretty soon here and be
yeah.
like, no, that is not true Lord of the Rings lore. If we keep going down this road.
Safe to avoid that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's only like the sixth
so
book I ever read.
so as we get into the side story games, right? They
Yeah.
made a John Wick video game that takes place before the movies. So as we explore that part of his story that we've never seen before.
Is it a prequel like
Yeah.
when Baba Yaga got his freedom?
I've never played it. I've always really wanted
Okay.
to. It's a turn-based strategy game, so it's like right up my alley. But
Oh, sweet.
yeah, it's like this interesting kind of just
Interesting.
what he was doing leading up before the main film. For some,
John Wick's John Wick XCOM. That sounds actually pretty sweet.
it's really cool. Um, and then the Mad Max video game also serves as a weird quasi
Yes.
side story, which it's a really dang good story if I do say so myself.
Hmm.
I love that world. So it's just you see all these kind of like tie-ins, all these like side quills in a way that this is what movie video games are now. And in a weird way, I would say like creativity won, right? Which I think is
Sure.
always a rough thing to say in the entertainment industry because it's such a dour world. You feel like producers rule everything and just everything's just this giant claw. It's like no, you must take out creativity and creative freedom. But I look at this like I look at all these games and there's a lot of like as bad as Middle Earth, Shadow of War treated the Tolkien lore, it was their idea. They had nothing stopped them from making Shelob a sexy vampire lady. Or not vampire, spider
Was she
lady.
a sexy spider lady? Would she tie you up into webbing?
Yeah, oh my god. But yeah, it's like this someone had an idea for that. Someone was like, this is a good idea. It may have been a bad idea, but someone had an idea and it was their choice to put it in. So just that level of creative freedom is something that I really enjoy seeing. It's like to me, it's like even if something is insulting, bad, if it's there, if it's that's the creator's intent, go for it. I
Hmm.
may hate it. I actually may think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but I'd rather have creator's intent than being manipulated by a shadow hand.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's my 2 cents.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of where the sense of movie games are at now. You know, they announced a new Aliens video game coming out in a few months. There was the Friday the 13th video game. There was the Predator video game which came out and failed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Predator one, but the Friday the 13th one, I mean, it got shut down because of a dispute between the original director and the screenwriter as to who had the rights now, which is why we don't have... Yeah, Chris Cunningham was the director-producer, but there's a law about copyright where after a certain amount of time, the rights go back to the author, and the author is still alive, so he's actually put a hold on all... That's why we haven't had a Friday the 13th movie since that Platinum Dunes remake, or side movie, whatever you want to call Platinum Dunes movies. But yeah, no, it's been a holdup for that, but before the screenwriter shut that down, that was had a great following, from my understanding. Like, I was watching online, it was one of the first times where I was like, between that and like Disco Elysium, I was like, I'm gonna have to get back into actually playing games because these look really fun.
It was just like, I remember when it was being kickstarted, this was a really cool idea a couple of guys had, and they got the original Jason Voorhees actor back, and just put it all together.
Hotter. I think that was a really good... And what was fun about that was, being a Friday the 13th fan, like, a lot of the locations you go to are recreations of locations from various movies. Yeah. And it's like you go into a building, and if you've seen the movie, you know the architecture of the building because they're pretty faithful. There's just... It's a lot of that, like, passive lore stuff. And it's not very deep, because of the nature of the game. You're not exactly going to sit around and read stuff when you're on a timer. But, that kind of pure mechanically driven, but open to being explored world.
It's something you could never do. Like, those movies, when you watch those movies, it ends and begins at Chris Green Lake, seeing that, like, what the director chose you to see. But in movies, you have the ability to explore that world.
Yeah, you want to go into Jason's cabin, you can go into Jason's cabin. There's actually things that will reward you for doing that, if you don't get killed doing it. But... as an outsider, the two that really have impressed me and had me very excited about the future of adapting movies and games were Alien Isolation and Friday the 13th. The mechanics of those two were not like anything I had seen before. I know Until Dawn, or what is it called?
If you're thinking, I mean, it's the horror movie.
The one where...
The horror game, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got everyone in it. Leatherface, Freddy Krueger.
Oh, you're talking about Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight, that's what it is.
Yeah, which still goes pretty well. Got Silent Hill characters in there. That's why I got it.
Oh, do they now?
Yeah, that's why
I bought it. Wait, you can't play Pyramid Head, right?
Yes, you can. You can play Pyramid Head.
But he's so slow.
He's pretty fun though. He's not as slow. He's obviously got a little buff on there.
Okay, he did skip leg day for the game.
Yeah, So Corey, I'm not sure your Silent Hill lore might need to be brushed up on, but you play as Cheryl Mason, not Heather Mason, but Cheryl Mason.
Oh no, you're talking about my favorite franchise of all time. Yeah, okay, trust me, right. I know my lore.
Good.
Yeah, no. That was very close. I mean, that was the first episode I premiered on as like a write-on thing, but...
anyway. That's right. Yeah, he needs to redo that Silent Hill episode. I'd love to be on it now that I'm doing stuff, because we both need to be on Silent Hill and clean it up, because one of the best franchises of all time.
Absolutely. Love that series. Tangent.
Yeah. Silent Hill movies, it counts.
Oh, God, don't... Silent Hill Revelations is okay, we're not going to get on this tangent. We're gonna stay on the track, stay the
right.
course, because there's still more to talk about.
I see the end of the train, like end of the train tracks. We're almost there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, like those two are two games that I really got excited about the possibilities. There were a few games before that that weren't movie adaptations, but like showed like what you could do. Like if L.A. Noire had been a hit, like it was popular, but like if it had actually been a financially viable venture, I think the possibilities of what you could do with movie game tie-ins could have become just ridiculous.
It's a really interesting theory.
Like, I had this idea a while back. I was like, because I've played both versions of Jaws, the Nintendo one and the PS2 one.
Oh, nice.
And it's really fun playing as the shark in the PS2 one, which has kind of been rebooted lately as Maneater, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Great game.
Really good.
They basically just like took all the licensing stuff out and then went full shark movie, like mutant powers and ridiculousness. But the original was pretty fun in its own right. And the PS game, I mean the NES game was basically Jaws the Revenge, the game, and was weird and kooky and fun. But like if you'd had something like LA Noire, you could have almost done like the plot of Jaws 2 where like you're the sheriff running the island and the mayor's not letting you close the beaches. And you could have just like visited people and done like crime scene investigation and like the plot from the Book of the Mafia. Like you could have done all this weird shit. And like then you get out on a boat and it's like, oh my god, there's a shark. But like those mechanics could have been applied to all types of different movie stories. Where it's just
adventure
like
games in general, I feel like could have really took off with stuff like that.
Because it's basically like, I mean, it's the final evolution of like the DVD menu, like your Criterion box set with all these different folders to take you to documentary footage and videos and stuff. Like that's essentially what we're talking about on a virtual level. Like you walk into a room and like there's the character from the movie 20 years ago and you can have a conversation with them. Like you could have done some weird stuff with that, but I guess as we're kind of coming near the end of this, my question to you is, what would you like to see? Like what movie would you like adapted? How would you like to see? Like what is your idea of a movie adaptation game that you would want to play? Like
So like
yes.
yeah, all right. Because this is I thought long and hard about like this kind of stuff all the time because I don't watch many movies, right? But
Right.
I'm someone like I like slower games. I like more story type games. I would love a game. We don't have many of these. There's like one that's Japanese only. I've played, but I would love like a Godzilla versus King Kong game, but you don't play as either Godzilla or King Kong. You're a human, and you can have some. They got the Hollow Earth bad, random monsters you could be fighting. You could go delve down into that lore now. But I'd love to be a human and just see the scale. Like something I dream, it's never going to happen. But I want a Gundam game where the Gundams are to scale with the humans. Just, I love seeing giant things fight while you're just a human down on the ground. And there is a game in Japan. I imported and played it called City Shrouded in Shadow. Where it's just that. It's just a bunch of kaiju, like Godzilla's in it, Gamora's in it, just a bunch of like kaiju and stuff. Evangelion's in it too. They actually replicate some of the Eva fights, being the first episode, and I don't know the other episode with it's like coming down from the sky and he has to like stop it. I don't remember, but they actually in that game they replicate the full first Angel fight from the first episode, and you're
Oh,
a
nice.
human. You are a human watching that on the ground. So you're watching the Eva like pick up the angel and do that awesome roar, and then him grab the barrier and rip it apart. It's
Nice.
incredible, and it's like it's not a great game for all intents and purposes. It's really not. But just seeing that is jaw dropping. But I would love a good video game, like in kind of that style where it's just
Like the Cloverfield experience.
100%, basically Cloverfield.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what I want to say.
Let's make a Cloverfield game then. Yeah, no,
Basically,
exactly.
Yeah. I love seeing I like being a human interaction in a event that's larger than life. So.
Yeah, no, I have a very similar desire to see a game that uses like a mechanic similar to like Shadow of Colossus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like in the comic books, they appear in Final Wars in a form, but like, or I think they're in a Heisei film too. But anyway, G-Force from the Godzilla comics, like being these people that fly around and try to like manipulate things while like titans are shattering the buildings they're on. I mean, even just like a Godzilla game that just fully takes the power of gaming that we have now to like have skyscrapers actually fall apart. I mean, like you look at a game like Red Dead Redemption, where it's like you have Death Stranding, where it's like here's the entire country.
Yeah.
You can walk it. Like if you have that much power in gaming now, then can I get a city that is like a fully actualized city and start crashing it? Because we've had like 3 PlayStations since I checked out. It's like I look at the leaps between gaming systems in my childhood, from like Atari to Nintendo to Super Nintendo to PlayStation, and it's just each time it was this like paradigm shifting leap. So that's the gauntlet I throw down to gaming in general. Is like, give me that scale.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give me all these like Grand Theft Autos and whatnots, but yeah, no, I feel like one I would love to see in the same like a sequel to Alien Isolation, which would just be like Aliens, but it would be Newt and the colony before Ripley arrives.
Oh yeah, like something really cool. That'd be awesome.
Like where you're just this kid and her brother, and maybe you play her brother, who we know dies. So there's this like, how long do we get to play the brother for? And then ultimately, like, it's a horror game because there's not really a lot of soldiers or anything on the base. It's just like aliens wrecking havoc, and you're trying to survive. I think that would just be ridiculous.
I wish we got an Alien Isolation sequel. I really wish we did.
More or just using that mechanic for something like a Friday the 13th, where you have all of Crystal Lake, and all the buildings in Crystal Lake are recreated, and there's like that Dark Souls lore depth where like you can go to the halfway camp and like read about like the mental health of the people that were there in Friday the 13th Part 5, or the psychic from Part 7 maybe is a character that you're like, maybe you're trying to find like Tommy who killed Jason. Yeah, I mean, like you could just like take franchises that are lore rich, that have like frothing fan bases, and basically make the interactive Criterion collection.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, it kind of looking at those old games again, it comes back to find a mechanic from the movie and start with that and build off of that. Like a bunch of people trying to survive Jason. Boom. Trying to outsmart a single AI in a vast, labyrinthian space that's full of lore and interactive potential. Alien Isolation. Boom. But yeah, again, I think it's just like not we have a movie, let's make a game off it. But like, this movie could make a really interesting game if we did this. And whether you tell the whole story, or you just tell that aspect, or you write a sequel, prequel, parallel universe, sidequel.
Yeah, totally.
As they say, you do you.
I love that. There's just so much you can do with it. It's video games, man.
Stranger Things, the game. Come on, bring it.
Yeah, there are Stranger Things video games that are actually retro throwbacks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
No. So like Scott Pilgrim, where you had to beat him up.
Nope. They actually tell the entire season story, play by play. They're really interesting. Actually, you should check them out. They're 16-bit, top down, isometric.
Nice.
It's really interesting. Check that out.
Yeah, definitely. I will.
But, all right. Well, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much, Corey, for being
Always
here.
a pleasure.
Honestly, one of my favorite episodes. I think I loved this.
This is a lot of fun. Yeah, let's definitely do this again sometime.
Oh yeah. Well,
all these colors, man. It's wild.
I think I should tone down the neon, but yeah, I like it.
No. You got that drive energy. You got that what's that other movie?
Ready Player One.
It's good. No. Okay, I'm not coming back. I'm gone.
Well, since you're not coming back, where will we find you, Corey?
I am retreating to Capron's cabin with my raccoons and my possums and my hillbilly unicorn juice. You can find me at Capron's cabin, which is actually going to be returning to YouTube, but it is a podcast on all available, the Anchor spread, so Spotify, Apple. If it podcasts, you should be able to find it. You can also find my side hustle as an electronic artist on Bandcamp, also as Corey Capron, because I am not creative with names. DickRson, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And as always, play what you want to play.